Thought, what in the world? Is that, no, I'll just stop there. But good job, Murphy. Way to represent and not be embarrassed to be a superhero. I don't know how many of you guys wear capes when you go to school every day, but Murphy walked out of school today with a cape on, so that was pretty cool. But anyways, last week was seniors last night, and I know for some of you, especially freshmen, it might feel like, what was that night all about? But I just want to tell you guys, good job. Good job honoring the seniors. I know they felt really special last week, and I promise when you're a senior that that's going to mean a lot to you. And so I just wanted to say great job honoring them, being willing to do that, and putting someone else before you. So 2 weeks ago, Coleman spoke on a series called Paper Walls. And so tonight I get to continue that series. And so you probably noticed this behind me. We got a nice paper wall here. If you weren't here for either of the first 2 weeks of the Paper Wall series, kind of real simply put, paper wall is something that from a distance looks like you wouldn't be able to get through it. But you guys can tell when I hit this wouldn't take much for me to push through. And so we all have things in our lives that from a distance, from whatever vantage point we're looking at things, might seem like they, are obstacles that we can't get by, things that we can't move, things that we can do nothing about, when in reality, they might not be what we see them as. So, weird idea, weird concept, but paper walls are all about the lies we tell ourselves. And lies are one thing. Number one, being someone who lies or being a liar is not something any of us would ever want to be called. The idea that maybe we lie to ourselves is really a weird concept, because how can you lie to yourself? Like, you know what you're talking about. You know what's there. You know what's real. You know what's truth. So how can you actually lie to yourself? But the truth is, we all do. We all lie to ourselves. But instead of lying or calling it lying, typically we call it a reason. The reason we do something. We don't say it was a lie. We say it was the reason I was late to school was the traffic around school. But the reality is the traffic's the same every day. And maybe this morning you snapped one of your friends, right, when you're getting ready, and before you knew it, you were on the phone for 30 minutes or whatever. Maybe there's more to it, but you come up with a reason. I personally typically think of this as like shifting blame. I don't like to think that things are my fault. I don't know about you guys. I'm assuming it's probably the same for you. But I would much rather put the blame on somebody else. So I was late to school because my mom drives slow. I didn't put my stuff away because my little brother was in the bathroom and I couldn't get there. They're kind of reasons, or maybe a better word is excuse. So our reasons are actually excuses. And the truth is that they're lies that we call reasons that for us, we use as excuses. Kind of weird for us to talk about this, and you might think, what does this have to do with my relationship with Jesus and how all of that works? But it doesn't really matter kind of the words we use, what we call it. The reality is we all have walls. We all have excuses in our life, things that we tell ourselves that the reality is they're not what they look like. So, excuses become becauses. Think of that. Take a little time to think about that. But excuses become becauses. So what that means is, whatever my excuse is, I say I do this because. And it's possible that maybe you're missing out in life because of those excuses, because of those paper walls. Maybe you're hiding behind the wall. Maybe you feel trapped by the wall. Maybe you've even invented something in your head that isn't real. Whatever's on the other side of the wall isn't real. Or, the wall that keeps us from whatever's on the other side isn't real. So we feel stuck. We feel trapped in it. So back when I was in high school, I don't know about you guys, but I really struggled with feeling like I was worth anything. I had two brothers. I still have two brothers, but back then I had two brothers. One of them got a 15/20 on his SAT, which, if you don't know, that's basically like getting a 35 on your ACT. He did this thing, which I think they still have, but I don't know, called UNL Math Day, and he got second place in that and got actually paid a couple $1,000s a year to go to UNL, tuition, room and board, and everything, because of the scores that he got on the UNL Math Day. And compared to him, I looked at him and I was like, I'm not that smart. I try really hard and I can't do what he does. My other brother was in college and he worked really hard. I always kind of saw him as the golden boy. Like, to my parents, there was nothing that he could do that was wrong. He actually, when he went to college, he actually started a lawn mowing business and bought himself a new car, moved out his freshman year of college, paid for his apartment all on his own, did everything, and to me it was like, he's succeeding, and I can't live up to that. And so for me, in high school, I'd always search for what made Nick special, what gave me worth. Some of you may know, some of you may find it really weird, but I played tennis growing up, and it was probably the one thing that I was really good at. And so for me, I found my worth in tennis and how I had something that I was better at than most people. And truth is, my senior year, I made it to the state finals and lost to someone from prep who I had beat 3 times earlier in the year. And so I thought I was going to be a state champion individually, and I lost. I didn't make it. And so my reaction was, I was talking to 2 different schools about going and playing college tennis, and I just decided I don't care about it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. For me, if I couldn't be the best, then I didn't know what I was worth. I didn't know what was special about me, and I can look back now. High school was quite a while ago for me, but I can look back now and realize the truth is I was afraid that I'd go off to college and that I wouldn't make the team, that I wouldn't succeed. I was afraid that I wasn't good enough. And so for me, I actually built up a wall where I thought I'm not good enough. And so there was something there that was keeping me from my future. One of the schools I was looking at was University of Illinois, Chicago. And I think about, every once in a while I think about it like, if I would have moved to Chicago for 4 years in college, my life would be totally different than it is today. And I don't know, that could be good, that could be bad, but I have no clue. I don't know what was on the other side of the wall because I was too afraid to do anything about it. It's possible that there's one major thing in your life that has become an excuse. That there's one big thing. I mean, obviously we all have little things. We all have lies that we tell ourselves. We all have things, but maybe there's one big thing that's really keeping you from living life. Maybe it's something that's controlling the decisions you make. Maybe it's something that's producing fear in your life. Honestly, if tonight's going to be worth anything for you, it's going to be figuring out what that one thing is. Really seeing what it is in your life that is your paper wall. So the weird thing, the reason why we're talking about paper walls is because there's a relationship between our excuses and our ability to follow Jesus. And here at Youth United, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out, how do we follow Jesus? How do we develop a faith of our own? And honestly, our excuses keep us from following Jesus because we can only have one thing in our lives that's king. We can have only one thing in our lives that we're living for. And we can't have whatever our excuses are be our king, and at the same time, Jesus being our king. To me, this is huge because the reality is, I grew up going to a really great church. I grew up with great parents who told me about Jesus. I went to a great student ministry for 4 years in high school, and I believed in Jesus the whole time. But I never followed Jesus. He was never the king of my life until I was a freshman in college, and I wasted a good 4 years of my life that I could have really been living for Jesus. Tonight we're going to look at a passage in the book of John, chapter 8. So I don't know, I'm guessing there aren't a lot of Bibles here. I want to encourage you guys to bring your Bibles, to use your Bibles. I 100% believe that this book has the best advice in the world for any of us. And so I don't see a lot of Bibles. Totally cool, because the truth is, I'm pretty sure every one of you has a cell phone. So there's the Bible app on your phone. You can open up, if you have your phone, if you have the Bible app on it. Honestly, like tonight, pull it out. Look at John 8, because we're going to go over John 8 pretty quickly. But these few verses we're going to look at have some really cool insight, some really cool things that that can really help us understand how to follow Jesus. So we're going to start with John 8:12. And in John 8:12, this is Jesus talking, and he says, "I am the light of the world." This is one of the weirdest statements that I can think of. If I started walking around telling people, "I am the light of the world," people would look at me like I was crazy. What in the world does that even mean? Well, light pushes back darkness. And so what if this is true? What if Jesus, as he claimed, is the one thing that can push back darkness? Jesus follows that statement up with, "Whoever follows me." And as I talked about before, like, there's a difference between believing in Jesus and following Jesus. So this is for people who are truly following Jesus. They're listening to his words. They're doing the things that he does. Honestly, like, when the Bible was written, totally different time period than right now. When the Bible was written, pretty much everybody did whatever their dad did. And so if, like, I was born into a family where my dad was a farmer, I would be a farmer. That was really my only option. I didn't go to college to train to try to do things. I did, if my dad was a bricklayer, then I would lay bricks. And so every once in a while, people would realize, like, I'm not made to do what my dad does. I really want to do something else. So if they were a farmer, they said, I really want to be a bricklayer. And so what they would do is they would follow that person. And they would use a term that we don't use today, but they would say, I'm going to become a disciple of that person. And so I'm going to leave my family, leave my house, and I'm going to go follow them. I'm going to live with them. I'm going to do everything that they do and learn how to be what they are. So following is a lot different than just believing in someone. After Jesus said, whoever follows me, he said, will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Darkness is not seeing what is full truth. So we walk in darkness by not knowing the truth. We walk in darkness by focusing on our paper walls, the things in front of us that aren't true. But those who walk in darkness will have the light of life. And so paper walls They make it so we can't see what's behind. But if we can poke holes in the paper walls, then light comes through. We can see what's behind it. We're going to skip ahead a few verses, John 8, 31 and 32. Jesus continues and he says, if you hold my teachings, this means Jesus is the father or the leader of your life. This means by holding the teachings, it doesn't just mean you know what they are. It means you do what they say. He continues to say, you really are my disciples. So again, disciple isn't just someone who thinks positively about Jesus. A disciple isn't just someone who wants to be good because Jesus said to be good. A disciple is someone who hears what Jesus says and follows. Someone who picks up their life and lives a life to do the same things that Jesus did. So then he continues and he says, then you will know the truth. So we will know the truth by being a disciple, by following. And if we know the truth will set you free. This is a little weird. In this passage, I'm not going to read through it, but right after this, where he says, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free, the people who are listening respond, and they're kind of like going against what Jesus is saying, and they say, well, we're not slaves. We've always been free. What do we have that we need to be set free from? And Jesus says, anyone who's a slave to sin is a slave. And so anything that keeps us from knowing the truth, anything that keeps us from doing God's will, from following Jesus, is something that we're a slave to. Jesus follows it up, John 8:36, and he says, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. So we will be free from being slaves to sin. All of this being said, honestly, what it boils down to is that our lives are filled with darkness. We live in a world that's broken. And we have things that keep us from the truth. They're not real barriers. They're paper barriers. They're things that are super easy to break through. They take nothing, no effort, but we don't believe that because we're focused on the wrong things. The passage in John 8 tells us that if we follow Jesus with our lives, we will see the truth, and the truth will set us free. The other leaders asked me before if I was going to jump through this, and I thought, I really am old. I probably wouldn't get back up if I jumped through that. All right, so all this being said, what does this matter to you? Following Jesus sets you free. It makes all of us free. Excuses, paper walls, reasons, whatever we want to call them, they keep us from engaging with others. They keep us from loving others. They keep us from being who God created us to be. They keep us from living our lives. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. He also said, if you hold my teachings, you are my disciples. You are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. We're going to go to our small groups, and we're going to get to discuss this. What is your paper wall? What's your excuse? What's your reason? What's your because that's keeping you from living the life that God created for you? All right, guys, you all know where your groups are. If you don't know, come up to the stage. We'll help you find your group. But Thanks for giving me your attention. You guys did a great job listening. It was fun.
He who was before there was light walked across the pages of time. He who made every living thing, behold him. He who heard humanity's cry left his throne to wake as a child. He became like the least of us. Behold him. Jesus, Son of God.